Why does it feel like all your energy is vanished? You lie in bed longer than you want to admit. The world keeps spinning and you're still stuck under the blanket, scrolling, staring, sleeping, repeating. People around you think you're lazy, but deep inside, you know something is wrong, something heavier than laziness, something quieter than sadness, something that slowly drained you from the inside out. Let me ask you this. Were you once full of energy? Did you used to wake up with a plan, chase dreams, love hard, move fast, believe in something, and now everything feels off? If that sounds like you, this isn't laziness. This is burnout, and it's more common than you think. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That verse isn't for the strong, the smiling, or the ones with it all together. It's for you, the one whose spirit feels crushed. You're not alone. You're not weak. You're not broken beyond repair. You're tired, deep, soul level tired. But even in this place, God is near, and He's whispering to you gently, constantly, faithfully. So what's really happening inside you? What's behind this tiredness, this silence, this numbness? We're going to walk together through the quiet terrain of burnout, not all at once, but one step at a time. No pressure, no shame, no rush, because burnout is not the end. It's the beginning of a return to rest, a return to peace, a return to yourself, and most of all, a return to God. And it starts with something almost invisible, something quiet, something you may not even realize is happening. Disconnection. Number one, you feel disconnected from everything, even yourself. That's the first real sign. Not just tiredness, not boredom, but a kind of disconnection that feels hollow, like you're watching your own life from far away, going through motions, nodding in conversations, smiling with no feeling behind it. You're in the room, but not really there. This is called depersonalization. It happens when you're so emotionally exhausted, your mind steps back to protect itself. And in doing so, you lose the sense of being you. You don't feel like yourself anymore. You forget what joy felt like. You question who you are, or if you ever really knew. The laughter sounds distant. The world feels like it's underwater. You float through the day and collapse at night, not because you did too much, but because even existing now costs too much. And the hardest part, people can't see it. Not on the outside. You still show up. You still look fine. You still say, "I'm okay," because you've said it so many times. You don't know what else to say. That's what burnout does. It turns vibrant souls into silent survivors. But again, you're not alone. Even Elijah, the man who had seen fire fall from heaven, felt this same detachment. 1 Kings 19 says, Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. He left his servant and walked alone into the wilderness. He sat down under a bush and prayed, Lord, I've had enough. Take my life. Those aren't the words of a lazy man. Those are the cries of someone disconnected from his own soul, from his courage, from his hope, from his fight. Elijah wasn't weak, he was worn down, and when he finally stopped running, he collapsed. But God in his mercy didn't shame him. He sent an angel, because God always sends something or someone to remind you, you are still you. You're not gone. You're not lost. You're still his. But it takes slowing down to realize that, and I know that's the part that feels impossible. You've been stuck on autopilot so long, how do you even stop? Here's how. You stop by noticing the numbness, by naming the disconnection, by no longer pretending you're fine, because pretending won't heal you. You're already doing it now by listening, by showing up to this moment, by letting truth crack through the surface. It's not weakness, it's honesty. And honesty is the beginning of freedom. Jesus said in John 8:32, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So let's name the truth. You don't feel like yourself. You're moving, but not living. You're surrounded by people, but feel isolated. You're functioning, but you're not okay. And all of that is valid, all of that is real, but none of that is permanent, because even when you feel far from yourself, you are never far from God. He's been walking beside you through every disconnection, every silent breakdown, every fake smile, every night you didn't want to wake up the next morning. He's been whispering to you the whole time. Maybe you couldn't hear him through the noise, but he never stopped speaking. You don't have to reconnect to everything all at once. Start by reconnecting with him, not through big actions, not through long prayers, but through stillness. Psalm 46:10 says, be still and know that I am God. That verse is not a suggestion, it's a rescue line. When everything in you wants to keep pushing, keep performing, keep pretending, God says, be still, because you don't have to perform for healing. You only have to pause. You only have to be in the silence. You'll hear it, the gentle reminder that you are still here, still loved, still his. And in that moment, that single sacred moment, you start coming back to life. So if today you feel disconnected, if your reflection doesn't look familiar anymore, if your prayers are dry and your soul is tired, take one breath, put one hand on your heart, and whisper these words, I'm still here, and so is God. Number 2, you used to be motivated, not a little, a lot. You were the kind of person who made to-do lists for fun. You woke up with a mission. Even on bad days, you still push forward because something inside you, call it fire, vision, or maybe just hope, kept you going. But now, that drive is gone. You open your laptop and stare, You start a task and abandon it halfway. You want to care, but the energy just isn't there. And worse, you feel ashamed about it. You whisper things to yourself like, what happened to me? Why can't I get it together? Was that version of me just a lie? No. That version of you was real, and it still exists. It's just been buried under too much weight. See, laziness is a character trait. It's when someone lacks desire or discipline, not just today, but always. But burnout is different. Burnout happens to people who were once deeply motivated, so much so they gave more than they had. They poured themselves out in every direction. They ignored warning signs. They kept saying yes, until eventually there was nothing left to give. Burnout is not a lack of motivation. It's a sign you've used your motivation for too long, without rest, without support, without renewal. And here's the truth. Even your strongest traits can betray you if you don't protect them. Your discipline can become self-punishment. Your passion can become obsession. Your care for others can turn into self-neglect. Your loyalty can keep you in toxic places for far too long. You weren't lazy. You were faithful to the point of collapse. Let me say that again. You were faithful to the point of collapse. So what do you do when you realize that? You do what Elijah did. You stop running. You stop hiding. You stop pretending. You let the voice of God find you where you are, even if it's under a tree in the middle of nowhere. Even if it's lying in bed at 3 a.m. with no idea how to face tomorrow. Even if it's in the silence between your shallow breaths. Elijah had seen miracles. He had called fire from heaven. He had stood alone against armies. And yet, one day his soul broke. And God met him not with thunder, not with commands, but with presence. God gave him food, let him sleep. Then gently, quietly reminded Elijah of who he really was. That's what motivation needs to be restored. Not pressure, but presence. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you gave yourself permission to do nothing without guilt? When was the last time you felt delight, not duty? When was the last time you chased joy, not just achievement? Because healing doesn't happen in the hustle. Healing begins in permission. Permission to rest. Permission to feel. Permission to not be strong for a while. Psalm 23 doesn't start with performance. It starts with surrender. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He restores not by pushing you harder, but by making you lie down, by leading you to quiet places, by helping you remember what stillness feels like. So if you're here and you used to be a high achiever, used to wake up ready to conquer the day, used to love what you did, and now it all feels like dust in your mouth, you are not alone. You are not broken. You're depleted, and that can be restored. But it starts by acknowledging what once was is not gone, is waiting to be revived. And revival always starts with surrender. So today, Give yourself permission to stop performing, to stop hustling, to stop beating yourself up for not being productive. You don't need to be useful to be valuable. You don't need to be impressive to be worthy. You're worthy because you belong to God, even on your least motivated day. Even when you feel like a shadow of who you used to be, God whispers, "Come to me, and I will restore you." Number 3, you used to be passionate. You didn't just work, you cared. You gave your energy, your heart, your time, your dreams. Your passion was the spark that lit up every room you walked into. It gave color to your days and meaning to your effort. But now, even the things you used to love feel heavy. You don't get excited anymore. You dread the very activities that once made you feel alive. Maybe it's your job, your art, your calling. Maybe it's your family, your ministry, your relationships. Whatever it is, it used to fill you. Now it drains you. And worse, you've started to resent it. You find yourself thinking, "I used to love this. Why do I hate it now?" That's one of the cruelest tricks of burnout. It turns your deepest joys into burdens. It takes what you once offered with gladness and makes it feel like obligation. But again, this doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're exhausted. Your passion didn't die. It got buried under pressure. You didn't lose your calling. You lost your margin. You didn't stop loving what you do. You stopped having the energy to carry it all. And here's the truth. God didn't create you to burn for everything. He created you to burn for Him first, and from that flame, light everything else. But when you pour and pour without being filled, even sacred things become stressful. Even holy work can become harmful. Even worship can feel like weight if you're running on empty. Let's go back to Elijah. The same prophet who once stood alone before 850 false prophets and called fire from heaven ended up saying, "I want to die." Why? Because passion without rest becomes despair. Elijah had purpose, he had calling, he had faith, but he also had nothing left. And when Jezebel threatened him, just a threat, not an attack, he collapsed. Because when you're running on fumes, even small pressures feel crushing. And here's what God didn't do. He didn't tell Elijah, "Come on, where's your passion?" He didn't say, "Push through it, keep going." No, God fed him. God let him sleep. God gave him time to come back to life. Because God knows passion is not a switch, it's a flame. And flames need fuel. Flames need protection. Flames need to be guarded, not demanded. Maybe today your flame is flickering. You feel cold where you used to feel fire. You scroll past things that used to inspire you. You ignore invitations you once would have loved. You silence the voice in your heart that once said, "Yes, this matters." But God hasn't stopped caring, and He hasn't given up on your purpose. He's simply calling you into a different rhythm, a rhythm of refilling before producing, of being before doing, of presence before passion. Because before Jesus ever preached, healed, or served, he spent time alone with the Father. Luke 5:16 says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." If Jesus needed to pull away, why don't you? If he needed to retreat and refocus, why do you think you can burn endlessly and never break? So today, don't chase passion, chase presence. Let God rekindle the fire gently, patiently, without guilt. Because the goal isn't to feel excited again, it's to feel alive again. And sometimes that begins in silence, in stillness, in saying, "God, I miss who I used to be, but I trust you to bring me back." Number 4, you become moody and irritable. This one's tricky, isn't it? Because you used to be patient. You used to be grounded, kind, understanding. You used to handle chaos without letting it get inside you. But lately, everything gets to you. The small stuff, the background noise, the texts you haven't answered, the people who need something from you. You snap quicker than you mean to. You sigh too often. Your tone gets sharp even when your words stay soft. And worst of all, you notice it. You hate it. You wonder, who am I turning into? Let me tell you, you're not becoming someone else. You're carrying more than you were meant to carry, and it's leaking out. When your soul is overwhelmed, it will speak. And sometimes it speaks in irritation, not because you're mean, not because you're bad, but because you're burnt out. Burnout turns gentle people into firecrackers. It turns the kind into the tense. It turns the steady into the snappy. And behind every outburst is usually something deeper: fatigue, unprocessed emotions, unmet needs, or silent grief. Think about Elijah again. He wasn't just scared, he was exhausted. He didn't just run, he collapsed. And when he finally broke down, he didn't hold back. He didn't say, "God, I'm tired." He said, "God, I've had enough. Take my life." That wasn't dramatic. That was raw. The words may have been harsh, but the pain behind them was holy. God didn't silence him. God didn't say, "Watch your tone." God responded with care, because God doesn't get offended by your emotion. He sees the cry behind the anger, the weariness behind the sharpness, the heartbreak beneath the bitterness. Scripture says in Psalm 103-14, He remembers that we are dust. He knows your limits. He knows your cracks. He knows your stress. So if today you're reacting more than you're responding, if you're snapping at people you love, if you feel like you're constantly on edge, don't shame yourself. Examine yourself. Ask, am I sleeping enough? Am I eating with care? Am I making space to breathe? Am I spending time with God not to perform, but to be still? Because moodiness is not always about temperament. Sometimes it's your body and soul crying out for balance. You weren't designed to absorb everyone's expectations. You weren't made to keep smiling through exhaustion. You weren't called to carry the world on your shoulders. That's God's job. Your job is to rest in Him. 2 Thessalonians 3:16 says, "Now may the Lord of peace Himself give you peace at all times and in every way." That's not a wish, it's a promise, but only if you slow down long enough to receive it. So next time the irritation rises, pause, take a breath, don't judge yourself. Instead, pray something simple like, "God, I'm tired and it's coming out sideways. Help me pause before I hurt someone. Help me speak from peace, not pressure. Help me come back to your calm." Because moodiness is a warning light, not a moral failure. It's the soul saying, "I'm at capacity. I need care." And God, as the great shepherd, doesn't scold his sheep for limping. He carries them. So let Him carry you, even when your emotions feel unstable, even when your heart feels scattered, even when you don't trust your own reactions. He still says, "Come." Not when you are polished, not when you are perfect, but now moody, overwhelmed human. Number 5, you've stopped taking care of yourself. This one hurts to admit, but it's true, isn't it? You used to care about how you looked, how you ate, how you slept. You had routines, rhythms, rituals, even small ones that helped you feel human. You kept yourself afloat, but lately you're surviving, not living. The meals are skipped, or binge, or whatever's fastest. Sleep is scattered, either too much or not at all. The clothes are wrinkled, the mirror is avoided, the inbox is a mess. And personal hygiene, let's not even go there. And worst of all, you've pulled away from people, not because you don't love them, but because you have nothing left to give. You're not lazy, you're not irresponsible, you're burnt out. And when burnout settles in, self-care becomes self-burden. Even small tasks feel enormous. Taking a shower feels like climbing a mountain. Making a phone call feels like running a marathon. You know what needs to be done, you just can't do it. And you hate that. You feel guilty. You beat yourself up. You say things like, "What's wrong with me? Why can't I do the basics anymore?" Let me stop you right there. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're depleted. Let me take you back to Elijah one more time. In 1 Kings 19, he collapses under a tree and begs God to end it all. And how does God respond? Not with a lecture, not with a miracle. God sends an angel, and what does the angel do? He doesn't give Elijah a pep talk. He gives him food, water, and rest. Then he comes back and does it again. Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. God didn't say, "You're overreacting." He said, "This is a lot. Let me help you." And maybe that's what you need today. Not a breakthrough, not a 5-step plan, just something simple. A warm meal, a glass of water, a safe place to breathe, a nap. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is sleep. Sometimes holiness looks like hydration. Sometimes healing starts with breakfast. The enemy wants you to think that self-care is selfish, that rest is weakness, that needing help makes you a failure. But the truth, you were never meant to do this alone. You were never designed to run endlessly. You were created to need, to rest, to receive. Psalm 121:5 says, "The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand." He watches, He shelters, He notices, even when you can't notice yourself. So today, what if you stopped judging your exhaustion and started honoring it? What if, instead of fighting your body, you listened to it? What if, instead of seeing your burnout as a failure, you saw it as an invitation to return to the basics, to return to grace, to let God meet you in the ordinary, in a meal, in a nap, in a breath. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not come to me once you've cleaned yourself up. Not come to me when you're on top of things again. Just come. So come, with greasy hair and tired eyes, with a sink full of dishes and unread texts, with an aching heart and an empty tank. Come. God doesn't need your performance. He wants your presence. Even when you stop caring for yourself, He still cares for you. Number 6, it all happened slowly. That's one of the most dangerous parts of burnout. It doesn't arrive like an earthquake. It creeps in like fall. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly collapse. No, it's gradual. A few more late nights, a few more "I'm fine" replies, a few more skipped meals, missed texts, fake smiles, a few more times you say yes when your soul is screaming no. At first, you feel tired. Then you feel numb. Then one day you realize you haven't truly felt anything in a long time. That's not laziness. That's stage 5 burnout. Psychologists describe burnout in 5 stages. The honeymoon phase. You take on new responsibilities with excitement. Productivity is high. Optimism fuels you. The onset of stress. The pressure builds, but you keep pushing. You tell yourself it's normal. Chronic stress. You begin to feel overwhelmed regularly. Sleep and focus decline. Cynicism creeps in. Burnout. You're mentally and emotionally exhausted. You detach. You feel helpless, hopeless, numb. Habitual burnout, this state becomes your norm. Every day feels heavy. You function, but you're not alive inside. Most people don't notice until they're in stage 4 or 5. Why? Because they kept saying, "It's just a busy season. I'll rest next weekend. It's not that bad." Until at island. But here's the good news. No matter what stage you're in, you can return. Return to peace. Return to yourself. Return to God. But to return, you must first recognize where you are. So let me ask you gently, are you still enjoying the things you used to love? Do you constantly feel like you're under pressure, even when doing nothing? Are you isolating, withdrawing, avoiding? Have your thoughts gotten darker? Does everything feel harder than it should? If so, you are not broken. You're not hopeless. You're tired, deeply, spiritually tired. And God understands tired. When Elijah reached that final stage, he didn't just ask to die. He laid down under a tree and quit. He didn't want to keep going, and God didn't tell him to. Instead, God sent an angel again, and the angel's message: eat, rest. You're not done, but you don't have to fix it all now. God didn't force Elijah to leap into action. He simply gave him enough strength for the next step. That's what you need right now. Not the whole path, not the big comeback, just the next step. And maybe that step is drinking water, sending a text that says, "I'm not okay," going outside and feeling sunlight on your face, taking one deep, intentional breath. It doesn't have to be big to be holy. God meets you in small steps. Remember what Scripture says in Isaiah 42, 3 amperes bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. That flicker inside you is not gone. It's just dimmed, and God protects the flicker. He fans it gently, patiently. So even if you feel stuck in stage 5, even if you don't remember who you used to be, even if the only prayer you can whisper is, "Help me," that's enough. God hears that. He sees your fatigue. He knows how long you've been carrying it. He understands that it didn't happen all at once. So he's not asking you to heal all at once either. Just let him in. One step, one breath, one small yes. The healing won't be instant, but it will be real, and he will walk with you every quiet step of the way. The way back starts here, not with a grand gesture, not with a perfect plan, but with a simple shift. From striving to surrender, from pushing through to slowing down, from doing everything to receiving what you actually need. Because if burnout was a slow fade into silence, then recovery is a slow return into stillness. But stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. Stillness means allowing God to fill what life has emptied. Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you truly felt full? Not just full of tasks or noise or motion, but full of purpose, full of clarity, full of life. If you can't remember, you're not alone. And no, a vacation won't fix it. A new job won't fix it. Even a better schedule won't fix it, not by itself. Because burnout isn't just about time, it's about disconnection. Disconnection from yourself, from your body, from your people, from your spirit, from your God. To heal, you don't just need rest. You need to be refilled. That's what the pastor in our second story discovered. He thought time off would save him. But time off only gave him more silence, and the pain was still there. What he needed was something new, a new rhythm, a new space, a new way of being. And maybe so do you. Maybe you need permission to step away from the constant pressure, to reconnect with joy, to try something that has nothing to do with your productivity. For him, it was MMA and flying lessons, things that pulled him out of his mind and back into his body, things that forced him to focus on the present moment, things that had nothing to prove, only something to awaken. What might that be for you? Maybe it's walking in nature without your phone. Maybe it's reading a book that has nothing to do with self-help. Maybe it's painting, or gardening, or singing again, or calling an old friend and just sitting in their voice. You don't need more tasks. You need more truth. And the truth is, you are not a machine. You are a soul. And souls need presence. Presence with yourself, presence with others, presence with God. Psalm 16:11 says, "In your presence there is fullness of joy," not in perfection, not in productivity, but in presence. So begin there. Set your phone down. Close your laptop. Take a breath. And say, God, I don't need to be amazing today. I just want to be with you. I just want to feel something real again. I want to come back to life, not by force, but by grace. And he will answer. Not with a thunderclap, not with a command, but with a whisper. That's what happened to Elijah. After the fire, the earthquake, and the wind, God wasn't in any of it. He was in the gentle whisper. You don't have to wait for drama to hear him. He's in the ordinary. He's in your quiet coffee, in your slow walk, in your deep sigh, in the tears you don't share with anyone. He's there. And if you listen, you'll hear him saying what your soul's been longing for. I'm not disappointed in you. I'm not angry. I'm here, and I want to fill you again. Let that be the next step. Not a sprint, not a leap, just one step toward presence. One small movement back to the source. You were never meant to be self-sustained. You were meant to be carried. Come back to God. You've walked through the fog. You've named the sign. You've seen how burnout crept in, not all at once, but little by little, and now you're here. Not because you're fixed, but because you're finally ready to feel again. Not all at once, not in full, but enough. Enough to say, God, I want you back at the center. Because the ultimate healing doesn't come from sleep alone, not even from therapy alone. It doesn't come from quitting your job or resetting your calendar. True healing comes from being reconnected to your source. Jesus didn't say, come to me when you're strong. He didn't say, come to me when you've sorted your life out. He said, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And maybe right now, you feel exactly like that. Weary, burdened, overloaded, exhausted in your bones, tired in your spirit. And Jesus says, come. No audition, no perfect prayer, no performance, just presence. Come to me. He's not asking for your success. He's offering you peace. He's not demanding your strength. He's offering his. And when you come to him, even in silence, he doesn't meet you with guilt. He meets you with grace. Grace that says, you're still mine. Grace that says, you don't have to prove anything. Grace that says, I will carry you now. So come right now, exactly as you are, with all the numbness, with all the shame, with all the confusion, with the dreams that feel dead, with a soul that feels dry. Come, sit in the stillness. Breathe slowly. Let your heart whisper, Jesus, I need you. Let the whisper become your prayer. Let the stillness become your sanctuary. Let this moment become your turning point. Not a dramatic one, not a far from heaven one, but a gentle one, the kind that changes everything from the inside out. God isn't just waiting at the end of your healing. He's in the middle of it, walking with you, whispering to you, filling you again, not because you earned it, but because he's good. And if you're wondering what to do next, pray with me. You don't need fancy words, just honest ones. Say this out loud or in your heart. God, I've been running on empty. I've tried to fix it on my own, but I'm tired and I need you. I lay down my burdens. I give you my exhaustion. I invite you back into the center. Speak to me in the quiet. Hold me through the chaos. Help me breathe again. Help me hope again. Help me trust again. Fill what's been emptied. Restore what's been broken. Be my peace, Jesus. Today, I come home to you. Breathe again. Let the silence linger. Don't rush to the next thing. Just stay. Rest here, because this is where it begins, with stillness, with surrender, with Jesus